How does a child growing up under occupation cope with so much terror and loss? For this particular child, coping meant picking up her paintbrush to create bold, beautiful compositions of mothers cradling their babies, lovers gazing at one another, and strong women rebelling. And even when her color palette turns gray and her images are of death and destruction, she continues to have hope. Our guest today represents the steadfastness and wisdom of those raised in Gaza. Her paintings embody the richness and beauty of Palestinian art. Malak Matar started making art as a teenager during Israel's 2014 invasion and soon began selling her work online. Her art has been collected, published, and exhibited in numerous group shows worldwide. She is currently pursuing a Master's of Fine Art at Central St. Martin's in London. This episode was recorded on the 23rd of September, 2024.
على بلدي المحبوب وديني زاد واقي والبعد
يا طالعين عين الجبل يا مول الموقدين النار بين اليمن عين الهنا يا روح.
I'm your host, Afaf Shawabibi, and you're listening to Tarwida. Ahla wa sahla, Malak. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Afaf.
I just want to begin by asking about your family because you're from Gaza and I know that your immediate family managed to leave. I just want to ask how everyone is, both in Gaza and those who have left. I believe they're in Cairo.
Yes, indeed. My immediate family, parents and siblings were able to evacuate a few months ago, and they are displaced in Egypt at the moment. So as like tens of thousands of Palestinian families in Egypt now without any kind of residencies. But today is a extremely sad day with the massacres that are taking place in Lebanon.
Yes.
And I, as a Palestinian from Gaza, we were born to love Lebanon and to love the Lebanese people. So I'm sending my condolences to all the Lebanese people in this continuing genocidal war against all of us.
Yes, indeed. It's like just when you thought it was the worst it could get, there's a next level, next stage that happens. That's unbelievable.
Exactly.
And so if we wanted to go back to when you began painting, you were young, you were about 13 when it was the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza. And you began to paint as a way to deal with the terror and the trauma that you felt. How did you know back then that art would help you cope?
Well, I think it's the environment that I was influenced by. There was love and passion for visual art, for poetry, for literature, and also having my uncle, Muhammad Musallam, who's an art professor. Seeing him and seeing how he expressed himself through different mediums has really inspired me since a really young age. And I remember also how art played a role in telling a story and escaping a negative emotion or escaping this state of terror and fear. So art for me was a way of escaping, but after this it became a way of documenting through a very personal place to reflect on the time and the place in different events and different occasions. For example, the Great March of Return. My work also documented what is the siege and how it's affecting us as Palestinians in all aspects of our life, whether it's socially, culturally, medically, and all aspects. So my work, through a very personal experience, depicted the socio-political environment that I was part of.
And you mentioned that the environment, that there was a lot of focus on arts and literature in Gaza. Through that, you've learned about women in art. Is that correct? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. like thinking and reflecting of the Palestinian curriculum that we were taught when we were young. Big part of it was dedicated to literature, to visual art, to poetry, to short stories. I remember very vividly Samira Azzam and also Fadwa Tuqan, the sister of Ibrahim Tuqan, and her poetry and her personal story and how she became one of the most important Palestinian poets. So the curriculum has really taught us a lot about Palestine, but it also made us so close emotionally to Palestine and also to the right of return.
Yeah.
Because in the class I was in, we were 40, 50 students, and almost everyone was a refugee. And this realization came so early on. I was only 6 years old. And we were asked to register where we came from. And for me, I was born and raised here, so technically I'm from the Gaza Strip. But none of us were. All of us were refugees. And some of the poetry, for example, Mahmoud Darwish, Samih al-Qasim, it has built this very nostalgic and emotional connection to a land which we were taught from different resources, but most importantly, the stories of grandparents.
Where's your family from originally?
So my father comes from Al-Jora, Qaryat Al-Jora, it's not that far from the Gaza Strip, but they were made refugees in 1948. And my mom's family comes from Batani Sharqi. So none of us is originally from the Gaza Strip, but if you are born and raised and you don't have that much option to leave or go back, you will always have this belonging. And for me, I always say it, if I was not from the Gaza Strip, I would have chosen to be.
Wow.
Because there's something about this city that will forever be engraved in our souls. And I'm in so much awe because this city has made me an artist and made me so human and so connected to humankind that I wanted to express it through art and through painting.
Yeah. And another person you had mentioned who influenced you was your great uncle, Nimr Abu al-Mi'za.
Yes, that's my mom's uncle. And he's one of the artists who were very important and still are since 1948 because they themselves were displaced. So they grew up in the notion of art as a way of personal storytelling, but also recording history through their own lenses as witnesses. So my mom's uncle, Nimr Abu al-Mi'za, he was one of the artists alongside Sliman Mansour, Nabil Anani, Ismail Shammout from Gaza, Tamam al-Akhal, etc., who were very focused on art as forming the Palestinian identity that has been constantly under threat and constantly being fragmented by the occupation. So I would say he was one of the founders of the Palestinian art movement from the 1948 onward. And also, like, when I had the conversations with him, the only critique he would have is like, I don't have enough Palestinian symbolism in my work, which for him, like, is so important because of how much the Palestinian embroidery or the Palestinian symbolism generally is being appropriated, is being stolen, and is being like threatened by the Israeli occupation. So he was like, whatever the concept of the painting or the theme of the painting, just make sure you put it in any way or form as a way of like proof, as a way of making a statement that it will never fade.
And what did you reply to that? I mean, did you do that, or did you feel that there was a sort of evolution? There needed to be an evolution in the message?
I always get the point, but when I was very young, I just wanted to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, like, you grew up in this notion. But for me as a young artist, I just felt like I needed to to freely express what I wanted. But I do see, like, the more I grow up, the more I see his point, and the more it makes sense. But I was just young and I wanted to be like free spirited in my practice and my mediums as well.
Yeah. So, speaking of freedom, your paintings were exhibited and sold internationally soon after you started to paint, but you didn't have the freedom to travel abroad with them. Your paintings
That's right.
had more freedom than you. So, the first time you were able to be at one of your exhibitions, how did it feel, and what impact did it have on the visitors, do you think?
Well, when I had my first solo exhibition in the Gaza Strip, I was only 15. And for me, I would say this was the most important exhibition of my life because it marked like the beginning of my life and my ambition as an artist. And I remember shortly after, like, it was covered by the local and international media. And the first invite I received was from Bristol. And when I went to Bristol, like years after, I just fell in love with this city, and I fell in love with the mural art and with the people who had like really strong solidarity with Palestine. But I remember, for me, the loss of freedom was sensed when I got the invite for the first time to travel and exhibit my work in Bristol at Palestine Museum. And I remember the excitement of having this invite. And for me, it was like, oh, wow, like we're suddenly making it internationally,
Yeah.
not only like locally. And then I went to my dad and I was like, what it takes to do it. And for me, like, that disappointment came straight away. He said, cancer patients are losing their life, and you think Israel will let you travel for an exhibition? Like, are you eluded? And for me, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But like, what we did as a solution was to ship the artwork through the Israeli mail office to Bristol. And the first encounter I had with the audience was very emotional. In fact, at the time, there was no Zoom. There was only Skype. Some of them were like, we are very sorry for what our government is doing. I remember that day, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
But it opened my eye to what it could be. Like, it opened my eyes that I could be an artist who is traveling and could meet people in their exhibitions. So it deepened my sense of siege. And I felt, because I had this opportunity to fly and to take a plane, to travel and to meet the audience, but I couldn't. So it just made me realize that I could actually be free, and it's not my destiny to forever be in a prison.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Malak, I remember when I first talked to you, I told you that you're still young, but you have such maturity and depth. And your answer was it's a result of growing up in Gaza. Can you tell us about that?
yeah, I mean, I really don't wish for any child to be mature. It's not something I would wish for any child, because I do believe, like, it's one of the basics, right, of children to be children. And once children start speaking like adults, it's a really dangerous indication of trauma, of the lack of human rights. And I remember back in 2008, I was going to my final exam to do like an Arabic test. And suddenly we were all pushed outside of the classes. And it's like, it's harb, it's war. So I went back home, and all I could think of is my Arabic exam. And then going back to school, you lived on a survival mode. And that is huge. Like, nobody would tell these children what exactly is going on. Like, their growth is going to be interrupted. You are going to have nightmares. You are going to have difficulty sleeping, difficulty functioning. I was only like 18 or 20 when I learned about PTSD. Thinking of trauma in a deeper sense. I was a young adult.
Is that what inspired you to write Sitti's Bird? which is your children's book about a girl
Yeah.
called Malak.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the Gaza Strip, there was a center called Al Qattan Center. It's founded in the UK, but it's also in Palestine,
Mhm.
in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And I remember I had a membership when I was little, which give you access to a library. So this library has a lot of children book. It has book readings. It has a lot of cultural activities and drawing classes, etc. So one of the things I used to do is to borrow children books, and none of these books, absolutely none of these books, had any stories that resembled our stories as children. There was no story of like a child who's been to danger. It has always been like butterfly and rainbows and sunny, shiny days.
Yeah.
And there was no such thing as children who are running for safety or children in a war zone having a dream. So the lack of stories that really represented survivors have been my inspiration.
Yeah.
So even if it's like too intimidating for people to buy it or to get a copy, at least it's a reminder that there's children in the Gaza Strip who unfortunately make the highest number of amputees in the world, who have maybe the highest number of orphans in the world, who are constantly chasing water, food, etc., and have not been able to go back to school.
Yeah. Did you get to interact with children who've read your book?
So I've done some reading, like tours
Mhm.
in the UK, and soon it will be North America. And to be honest, I do the reading, but at the very end of it, like, it's extremely difficult because Malak eventually goes back to her home where her life started. And it just reminded me that I cannot actually go home. So it's very emotional to actually read it. But what children do after the reading tour, we have like a workshop
Mhm.
where children draw on like birds and they do some crafts, and they send letters to children of Gaza. So it's like a reading tour, but it's a continuing project of children writing letters to children. So, and the book has been translated to several languages, and maybe that's a call for authors. It's time to do more books about children, from Lebanon, from Palestine, from Iraq, etc. That would make children feel seen and heard and remembered.
Did
It's been, yeah.
Did you also do readings with children in Gaza?
Well, unfortunately, with the like internet communication, it's been almost impossible to get touch.
Okay.
So the only way, like, I send messages to my family members, and I receive like messages later on. Is like, yes, we're still alive.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's a complete disconnection.
Okay, because you published it after you left. Yeah.
No, it was published, in fact, in 2021. After the 2021 Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip. And it was illustrated with a huge help from my little sister.
Oh.
She's only 13, but she's very interested in drawing and illustrating. So we had this, it was more of a sister project.
That's so nice.
Yeah. Her name is Jenna. So I dedicated the book to her and to Palestinian children.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you plan to do any other books, you think?
Well, yes, I'm very open to it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very open to other books, but at the moment, I'm really focused on doing as many paintings and drawings and printmaking as possible, as like a form of documentation.
So you're in your second year now of your master's in London, and I just wanted to ask, because you already, as an artist, accomplished so much, and your work developed a lot. How do you see your work evolving even further through this program, or what new things are you learning?
Well, I do have like a personal tutor as part of the course, and her name is Noshin Farhid. She's really like been one of the most important people in my course, giving solid critique. Always like whenever I feel depressed because of the continuing massacres and the feeling like it's almost 1 year of genocide and nothing is happening. It's in fact getting even much worse. So she told me once something, it's always in my head. She said, if you don't make art, you don't have a voice, and your people will not have a voice.
Mm,
And this resonates so much because in my school, I'm the only student from the Gaza Strip.
mhm.
And I do feel like if I'm the only student of the Gaza Strip who would give up to feeling depressed or giving up or hopelessness, then Gaza Strip will not even exist in this institution,
Yeah.
which is, it's the top art school in the UK.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, like policies wise, it has been completely biased to the occupation. So it's more motivation, but also solid advice, and also having access to workshops like printmaking workshops, metal sculpture, wood workshops. Having this ample resources is very, very important to discover, to exploration and discovery.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so you get to explore different mediums and techniques and interact with people of different backgrounds.
Exactly.
But I'm sure at first it was difficult because you arrived just as the genocide was
Exactly.
about to start. And you said that whereas you used to, paint in bright, colorful tones, then you shifted to black and white.
Yeah.
Are you still producing in black and white?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
it will be a while.
It'll be a while. I suppose that there's hope in color, but at the time that you shifted to black and white, maybe you had lost hope.
Yeah, temporarily.
Temporarily. Yeah.
It's time that we do what we can, but it's also time that we grieve the loss of not only our friends and mentors and artists and intellectuals and our people, but also to grieve the loss of an entire home.
Yeah.
Because it's part of our humanity is to feel sad and to express it, to feel every single emotion and to express it so humanly. But I'm very determined to go back to color.
Yeah.
And I do feel like if I would ever just go back to color, is to make a statement that we will never ever lose hope or be defeated.
Mm-mm.
But it's also important to note, like, painting with colors did not always mean joy.
Right.
Because a lot of the work I document, like the documentation of the 2021 attack on Gaza, it was very vibrant, but it was too sad. So
Yeah.
but giving up completely on color, it's a whole different period of my life as an artist, which I needed to let my gut and my instinct decide and move ahead with it.
I'd like to talk about your most recent exhibited painting, No Words. So for our listeners, it's a very big painting, almost 5 meters, and it's in black and white, and it basically shows different scenes and images of destruction from Gaza during this time of genocide. So I have to confess that when I first saw it, I wish I could see it in person, but when I first saw it online, my immediate thought was of Picasso's Guernica, which is about the shock and horror of war, and as is your painting. But I soon realized that my reference as a Palestinian living in the West is Western art. I mean, I spent time in London. I used to go to all the galleries with my mother, who's also a painter. But there are other Palestinian and Arab artists that I could or should have compared your work to. For example, in the Markaz review, Nadine Nuruddin likens your painting to the renowned Iraqi artist Dia Azzawi. He has an enormous drawing called the Sabra and Shatila massacre.
Yes.
Also, Samia Halabi's drawing of the Kafr Qasim massacre of 1956. Tell us a little bit about this, how, people can compare to Western artists, but in fact, we have our own pool to draw from.
Yeah. I mean, like mentioning Dia Azzawi, he visited my studio while working on No Words. He visited like 2 times. One time, the painting was absolutely blank canvas, and it was so intimidating, like 5 meter, 2.30 height, meter height. And I was like, look, I never worked in a big size before, and I'm really scared. He's like, afraid of what? There is no fear, even if you have to stay day in and day night in the studio, sleep next to the painting.
Wow.
And these words have really inspired me to be stronger and to be brave, to start working on a size I've never really worked on. It's like this painting is double my size and double my height. So having his support has been a good beginning to starting No Words. But speaking of Picasso and Guernica, there's no surprise. Of course, a huge black painting about war, black and white. People will always make the reference to Guernica. But composition-wise, it's truly from the Gaza Strip. And it's been referenced from different photographers like Ali Jadallah, Mu'taz Azaiza, journalists like Wael Dahdouh, Anas Sharif, and also focused on references from my family, who had to evacuate many times till they made it to the south. So I remember one of these photos that I have referenced in the painting. It was a photo that my 16-year-old brother took of the white phosphorus that has fallen into the Gaza port, which is where I live. And the white phosphorus, everyone would know, it's internationally prohibited. So it's a collective painting, but of course it has been personal because I grew up in the Gaza Strip. And yes, I might not have lived through the genocide, but I'm exposed to very similar tactics of erasure, of ethnic cleansing, of the psychological war against the Palestinians. But this painting, why I felt is so important, because it covers many aspects of the genocide and not only one aspect. First and foremost is the forced displacement, which is the biggest and the largest in our history, in the Palestinian history. Over 2 million Palestinians have been displaced within the Gaza Strip. So I've depicted the displacement in the heart of this painting, but I've also focused on the cultural genocide, like the destruction of cultural sites like Rashad al-Shawa Cultural Center, which was a dedication from Layla Shawa, a renowned Palestinian British artist from the Gaza Strip. The Central Archive Building, which has all the historical documents. Basha Palace Museum, Al-Qarara Cultural Museum that has 5,000 assets and antiques belonging to the Canaanite period, to libraries, theaters, and also the targeting of artists, of storytellers and mentors. For example, Dr. Rifat Al-Arair, who was a lecturer at the Islamic University, but he was a traveling author and poet who said, if I must die, you must live to tell my story. And I might not have painted Rifat Al-Arair, but I have symbolized him as a kite because he has the poem about the kite. So when we talk about the cultural loss, not only I as an artist have mourned this loss, but almost everyone in the Gaza Strip, because these places have not only been for culture, but have also been central places.
And you mentioned
mentioned
there used to be weekly exhibitions and book launches.
Exactly. Like I'm just one person of a huge, vibrant art community that was thriving despite of the cultural siege, despite of the lack of art material, the art resources. Every day there was an emergence of a new artist. And one of these artists that was really like, I would say a ray of sunshine, if you like, is Muhammad Sami Qriqi. He was only 24 and he was part of Tamer Institute, which is cultural and creative institute encouraging young artists to express themselves through creative means. So Muhammad Sami Qriqi, he was in Al Ahli Baptist Hospital. And what he did is he did circles of children to play with each other as a way to be distracted from the bombardments. But unfortunately, Muhammad Sami Qriqi and all these children have been killed when Al Ahli Baptist Hospital have been targeted. Another artist who's been killed, Dunyan Al Amour, she was an art student. Heba Abu Nada, she was a poet and novelist. She was award-winning. Heba Zaqut, she was a mother of 4. So the cultural genocide, and I felt as an artist, I had even more commitment to talk about it. It's a universal loss. Also the religious genocide, like the targeting of Al-Umari Mosque, the Greek Orthodox Church of Saint Bosphorus, which has inspired my earliest visual memory as an artist to see iconography.
Yeah, you mentioned that you would draw figures with halos around them.
Exactly. And I also focused on children testimonies. Like they were asked inside the tent, like, what do you wish to have from your old life? And the answers were like, I wish to go back to school. I wish to paint. So all of these testimonies from children have been depicted in different sides of the painting. So it's a painting that is truly collective, and it focuses on the horror of the occupation and genocide.
How long did it take you to paint it?
It was less than 2 months.
Does that include the drawings that you initially did? So you did drawings of the different scenes or images, and then you proceeded to do the painting itself, right?
Yeah. So I started breaking slowly into art because I was completely paralyzed from making any work. I started in November, and it was through like like charcoal drawings, very small A4. And then I decided that I cannot proceed only doing this. I needed a bigger scale painting just to do this.
Yeah.
To tell everything, to depict all the aspects that I want, and to just really like to document something that is truly like realistic and overwhelming. Like I needed the painting to be too large that it can really put the viewer closer to the scene. So I decided in December, and I started composing it from drawings, from photographs, and from testimonies, written or sound testimonies. And I finished working on the painting early February. And it's been premiered in London, and then it went to Venice, and then shown again in London. So it's a painting that is currently like traveling.
When we look at that painting, the images seem so familiar because of all of us have been so exposed to the live stream of, the news, but mainly social media, the videos.
Exactly.
So the images are so familiar that I think a lot of people will feel a lot, and they will recognize a lot of the pain that's in it.
And I do feel like after like thinking a lot about it, and after like seeing this like really annoying level of dehumanization, I just fail to think of anything against dehumanization other than art. And other than like art in all of its aspects, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's painting, sculpting, storytelling, children book, etc. Because the answer to dehumanization is I'm a human, and I will do it as a human, and not only to depict the victimhood or to depict the oppression, but to depict the anger, because, you know, we are angry.
Yeah.
And yes, victims get angry and oppressed people get angry, and we have this deep sense of taking revenge.
Yeah.
So it's to be very like honest and transparent of all the human feelings, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, Malak, what do you envision yourself painting or doing in, let's say, 5 years' time? Or what do you hope you'll be painting about?
Wallahi, I'm just think like I just want to make it to tomorrow, really,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
every day I'm a different person.
Yeah.
Like it's really strange how grief changes us.
Yeah.
Some days you don't feel yourself, some days you feel yourself, some days you really have a deep sense of hopelessness and this lack of production, and the other day you just wake up with a huge sense of purpose and mission. But if there is one thing I would just want to tell everyone is like, do something. There should always be faith, and there should always be belief that أن بعد العسر يسر, after all difficulty there is ease. Whenever I just don't want to paint, I think about the artist in the ground. I think about Ra'ed Isa, who took his tent as a studio and who is depicting sisterhood, brotherhood. He's depicting displaced people. He's depicting life scenes of genocide. I think of Najil Ali. I think of Najil Ali a lot during this time. But
Handala's featured in
yes,
No Words in the painting. Yeah.
Because we are all Handala.
Yeah.
We've all been Handala, and we're always this deep sense of frustration and disappointment is in every one of us. So Handala is timeless. So when I see people still working on the ground, I just feel like there is absolutely no excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to build on that, what advice would you give to aspiring young Palestinian artists?
Yeah, I would say there should always be a mission that is not tied to personal goals, a strong mission that one is driven by, a mission that makes you wake up in the morning. And I would say to be human. One thing that Gaza taught me is to be a universal human being. And I remember this deep solidarity that Gaza has given to the world. And not only the world has given Gaza solidarity, like the Black Lives Movement. There was a huge mural of George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Solidarity, even Ahed Tamimi, the Palestinian icon.
Yeah.
We did a huge mural. Solidarity with South Africa, solidarity with global causes, solidarity with colonized people. So one thing that Gaza has taught me is to always feel that connection with other human beings who are going through suffering and are going through deep sense of oppression. It's a depressing time, but there should always be a drive and a drive of mission.
This is actually why we wanted to have a podcast called Tarwida to promote and preserve Palestinian arts and culture, let people know about what our heritage is, both past and present, because it's so important. You talked about, art being the only response to dehumanization. We need to know ourselves as Palestinians, who we are, the richness of our culture, and then we can continue by showing it to the world. For people wanting to learn about Palestinian artists, visual or otherwise, whose work would you suggest they look at?
That's a very good question. Well, Slimane Mansour. I often speak to Slimane Mansour, and I show him the new work, and we speak about the time and situation and producing art during genocide, etc. And really, like, seeing his work just deepens the importance of documentation. And I do feel like Slimane Mansour has been one of the most important artists who've done documentation in a very beautiful but also very, very inspiring way for us as a young generation to connect with our history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, when we speak of Nakba, I remember his work and I remember his story. So through art, you can connect generation with another generation. And that's how I feel very connected to my own roots and how I feel connected to Palestine and to even the places I've never been to. And when I think of Slimane Mansour, I think of this. I think of how much his work has connected me to Palestine. I would also recommend, the work of Sami Al-Halabi,
Mm-hmm.
who I was able to visit her studio in New York. And for me, to be honest, I was shocked. Like, I was just a 19-year-old and she was making a painting and she asked for my opinion. She's like, shall I do this or shall I do that? I was like, how can you ask me? It's like, you are the legend. So, like, to be honest, like, when I see of how much Palestinians have contributed to art and culture, there's part of me that feels in so much awe and so much appreciation. Like, imagine for people who've been fighting for their own rights and liberation and return, and who've been really struggling at every checkpoint, not only in Palestine, but across the world, but still managed to make art that is excellent, art that has made it internationally and have made it to the most important venues of the world. I think it's a true inspiration. But also, like, I would ask people to check the work of Mohammed Sami Qraqi, who I spoke about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
A young artist, Bayan Abu Nahla, amazing portraiture. It's a huge list, and that's why, like, with this podcast, it's gonna be like hundreds and hundreds of stories and artists and filmmakers.
Well, we hope to bring as many people as we can. So, can you give us advice on who we should invite? Not necessarily visual, but let's say people who have inspired you, non-visual artists, musicians.
Yeah, I watched The Present by Farah Nabulsi,
Mm-hmm.
and the short film has really touched me. And Farah Nabulsi is also an amazing person, an amazing human being. So yeah, that's I thought, yeah.
I'm laughing because, well, we just had an interview with Farah, and when I asked her this question, she mentioned you as one of the people.
Really? Wow.
So it's mutual. Yeah, Malak.
Yeah. No, I mean, Farah is incredible. She also has one of my pieces, Sleeping in Nature, too.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice.
What a coincidence.
It is. It's meant to be.
Yeah.
Well, Malak, I wish we could talk for many more hours because you have so much to say and you're such a rich source of information and insight. And maybe we can have you on again another time because it would be really interesting to follow your journey and to, maybe hopefully talk to you at a time when it's not so dark and there's not so much despair.
Yeah. I mean, I recall Shireen Abu Aqla, may she rest in peace, and she said, خلي المعنويات عالية, which keep the spirits. Keep your spirits up. And as far as I know, in our history, there has never been a place of despair. And Mahmoud Darwish, he said something like, the hope will never really leave us as nation. It's like a disease. It can never leave us. whether in a good or bad. But I hope just these days will only be gone and we can go back to Gaza, I think.
I hope so.
Because, yeah, there is no place as precious as home. And especially when home is Gaza, it's, yeah.
Yeah. One day will come and you'll be in Gaza and we'll come and we'll see one of your exhibitions there.
Inshallah. We're only passengers. We're only visitors in the West or in the world. Just guests. But everyone hopefully should go back home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they say go back to your country. I was like, I wish I could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, Malak. Thank you for your time, your energy, your insight, and for all the work that you do. And
thank you, Afa.
We're going to continue to follow you and wishing you the best of luck in your studies and in all your projects.
Thank you very much, Afaf. And my best of wishes to Tarwida and the mission of Tarwida, which is so, so important and also much needed during this time of us as Palestinians connecting after the occupation has done the impossible to really fragment us into pieces.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tarwida, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the best of Palestinian arts and culture. For more information, please follow us on social media and don't forget to subscribe. Salam.